Welcome to the Third Win channel. Today we're doing the season 2 episodes of iCarly tier list. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'd suggest you go watch the season 1 version of this that we did yesterday. But without further ado, let's get into this video and let me go over my tiers real quick. Favorites are my personal favorites. Then we got Iconic Classic, which I just think are like the really iconic episodes that people remember for a long time. Then we got some great episodes, some pretty good ones, maybe not the best ones, and then the ones which I could skip, honestly. And I have all of them ordered in the order of their appearance, so when they actually aired on TV. And I'll walk you through the episodes and remind you of kind of what happened in them. So let's get into it. First, we got I Saw Him First. This is the one where Sam and Carly basically fight over one of Freddy's quote unquote cute friends from the AV club, and it ends with them just going through a series of crazy things. Just the whole deal was the first one to kiss him gets him, but in the end, neither of them really get him, and he ends up being in the hospital because he falls down the elevator chute, which is kind of like the subplot of the episode because it's the elevator's being repaired. So but in the end, Carly does kind of win because when he's in the hospital for falling down the chute, she kisses him while he's unconscious and says, "I win." But I don't know. I think this was just pretty good. I'm not super entertained by the plot of this one, and I don't know. It doesn't show very well off to their characters. It's kind of snobby what they do. But yeah, let's move on. Next we got I Stage an Intervention. This is honestly, I think, one of my personal favorites from this season. I love that they have the pack rat, I think they call it, and Spencer finds it and it has like a dead animal in it, but he reboots it. He gets to work and he just gets completely addicted. I think this um, is a really good take on like a social concept of like getting addicted to gaming, but then they also bring in like world records, so they get the I think her name was like I can't remember, but basically a girl has the world record for the longest or the highest score in this game, and Spencer tries to beat it live, and I think he does. But the whole point is that he's wasting so much time when he should be working on his new sculpture. It's called like the Hammer Doodle or something, and he keeps delaying it. And Carly keeps trying to get him off the game. But I like this episode. I'm going on too long, but it ends with Carly, of course, also getting addicted to the game. And I don't know. I just really like this episode, the vibe of it. I like the whole pack rat thing. Moving on, we have I Owe You, where Sam finally tries to pay back the $536 she owes Carly and Freddie, which is a lot for some high school kids. And she gets a job which she hates. So Carly and Freddie set up a way for the viewers to send in money, but low key illegal. So they send I think they send most of it back, but they get enough like for the 536, and then they like tip it to her at work, so it seems like they like the money came naturally. And then when it comes for Sam's time to do the right thing, she instead buys a trampoline and doesn't never pays them back. But they all enjoy the trampoline. Um, I think this is okay. I I'm probably sticking with pretty good. I do like this episode because it shows Sam's character, and I like to analyze, so I like that. But it's in terms of entertainment, it was just okay. Next we got I Hurt Luber, which I think is a classic episode where messing with Luber prank goes wrong and he actually gets hurt. But this episode really solidifies how much Lubert actually sucks. After he gets so much help from Mrs. Benson, he still treats her super rudely and is jealous when she treats Freddy after he falls down the stairs. And but overall, I think this episode's pretty iconic. I don't know why. I just something about it. It's very memorable to me. Moving on, we got iPie. So iPie is the episode where um, they really like this pie place. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe like Giovanni's Pie or something like that. But the guy passes away, and he was the only one who knew the recipe, along with no, he was the only one. And then the only other place you can get his recipe is in his computer, and they go through the ends of the earth to get this recipe, even sneaking into his funeral and going behind to sneak onto his computer. Can't find it anywhere, but in the end, it was actually inside the computer, which is pretty funny. And a lot of crazy stuff happens in this episode, including Spencer needing to date the sister of this guy who is um, he doesn't like. Let's just put it that way. And I don't know. I thought it was funny how they fight over the last piece of pie. I think this episode's pretty great. I think it could be one of my favorites. We'll see as we go along. Next, we got a really weird episode, kind of like the the dance episode in the original season, like the third episode of the first season. Kind of like a dreamy one where Carly wishes that Spencer was born normal because his sculpture Christmas tree burns all the presents, because it's Spencer and fires, ha ha ha. But basically, what happens is that Spencer is born differently, and her life changes. There's no iCarly. She's never friends with Sam. Mrs. Benson is engaged with Spencer, and Spencer is this quote unquote lame, kind of lame person. So she's obviously miserable, and then eventually things go back to normal when she exclaims that she wants her old life back. I don't know. This guy, I guess this teaches you a bit of a lesson, but it's not a super exciting episode. It's kind of cool to see a different scenario, but I think I could pass on this one a lot of the time. Next, we got one of the most iconic episodes I can think of, which is iKiss, where Sam exposes Freddy for never having kissed a girl, and in the end, they kiss because Sam secretly tells Freddy that she also hasn't kissed anyone, so let's just get it over with. And the whole reason that, um, the whole kind of idea of the episode was that she exposes this horrible secret about Freddy, and he's so embarrassed that he quits school, he quits iCarly, and um, yeah, because she exposes it on live on iCarly. But I think this episode is iconic. Obviously, it spawns all the shipping between Freddy and Sam, and eventually that gets deeper. But this is where it started. Moving on, we have it's called I Give Away a Car. This one's all right. I like how they have this like kind of Star Warsy thing that Spencer, or like movie that Spencer and Freddy like, and he buys what he thinks is an original version of one of the vehicles in the movie, but it's actually a replica. And at the same time, they iCarly having this competition where they're giving away a car, which they thought they had figured out before they started giving away a car. But when they get to the dealership, there is no car. So, and what's even crazier is this is where Neville returns. He wins the competition, and then he demands his car, and they don't have it. And obviously that's fraud. So they give him this car, which they built in an engine with, and he crashes it. I think it's an alright episode. I would put it just about here. And by the way, I didn't mention about IOU. I love the Spencer stuff with trying to impress one of the little girl's moms, and he has to sell the fudge balls. That's funny. Kind of pops it up to here actually. I'll put it there. But this one, yeah, just pretty good. Next we have. Oh, and I should mention I Go to Japan. That's not on this list, but it's absolutely one of my favorite iCarly episodes ever. I love the it's like the long. It's so entertaining with the plane and poupette and them trying to make the Japanese guards understand that they're iCarly. It's not here, but it is kind of part of season 2. Next, this episode is I Rocked the Vote, and this is where they are a big fan of like American Idol basically, and there's two finalists and they really want one of the two to win, but they have so much power that they actually rock the vote in one's favor and he wins. And they feel bad for the other guy because he couldn't pay for his grandma's surgery or something because of it. So they redeem him by helping him make a music video, but it turns out that he was lying about his grandma and he's a complete, as they call it, knob in British. Like the guy was British, I think. So what was the word they used? Tussle knocker or something. It was kind of dumb, but I think it's all right. It's pretty good. I wouldn't skip it. I don't think it's pretty close to being skippable, but there's some interesting moments in there. Next we got I Meet Fred, which I'm a little bit torn about. It's where Fred D says that he doesn't find Fred that funny, and it starts a whole war between the fan bases, which, you know what, that is really relatable to today, and that's why I wanted to put it in iconic, because it's kind of like predicted the what we have now, which is basically Freddy, no, Fred admits to doing that, just like causing. Uh, he said he'll never make another video again before Freddy says he's funny or something like that. So he basically causes the whole thing, and he doesn't actually mean it. So, and they go to Fred, but it's iconic, but it's also not very good. And Fred didn't age very well, so I'm actually gonna put this in could pass. But in some ways, it's iconic. Next, we got I Lookalike, where they try to sneak into an MMA fight, but the Spencer and Miss Benson don't allow them to. This is where we first see Spencer kind of take a grip with the whole parenting thing, and he basically says, Carly, no, you can't go to this fight. And what is their solution? They get these lookalikes. They record like 200 played in messages on the computer. That obviously goes horribly wrong. And Spencer gets thrown by a professional MMA fighter. And that's pretty much the episode. I think it's okay. Like the bottom of pretty good, maybe. Next, we have I Want My Website Back, where Neville steals the iCarly basically steals the domain for the iCarly, the iCarly domain. And how does this happen? Because Spencer changed his credit card, which is a very relatable thing. And their biggest fan from a throwback from season 1 gets the domain, but then somehow Neville gets his hands on it. I kind of forgot how it happened, but it all ends with a deal between Carly and Neville where she agrees to kiss him if he signs the website back over. She tricks him. He doesn't get a kiss, and then he says you will rue the day, and then he gets guacamole in his face. I think this episode is I'd put it in pretty good as well. Um, Neville is probably a highlight here. I don't like that the fangirl came back because I didn't like. I mean, if you saw the last episode, you know that I put that episode in could pass. But moving on, we have I Make Sam Girlier, I believe it's called, and this episode I actually really like. I think it's probably goes into like a classic where they try to make a little change with Sam because she realizes that she's never gonna get the guy she likes being so Sam, being so kind of tomboyish. She realizes this at a birthday party I think they had where everyone basically just says horrible stories about her, but in a nice way. But I like how this episode ends with her friends getting potentially hurt by this really big girl, and then Sam steps up like, no, these are my friends, don't do that. And then she beats up a girl half her size, which no, not half her size, double her size, which is really great. And I think it's an iconic episode where someone tries to change and it doesn't work out as usual. Be yourself. I think that's a good message. Next, we got I Go Nuclear, which is probably the most passable episode. I always forget what happens this one, but it's basically they need a school project and they need to be more environmental, but it goes sideways because they want to build this nuclear powered energy station, but it turns out to be illegal, and then they have to go to what Camp Footlong, I can't remember what it was called, but the something and something retreat, which I don't want to go to. It was all right, but I probably skip this one most of the time. Then we have I Date a Bad Boy. I think this one's just pretty good. Again, like the whole the episodes that are focused around like Carly trying to get a boy are to me like very uninteresting. But basically she finds out that one of his hobbies is collecting peewee babies, and he's supposed to be this bad boy, so that turns her off. So she makes fun of him, and that makes him walk away. Very similarly to how things happened in I Saw Him First. So it's basically the same thing over again, and I don't think it's that interesting. I think it's a little funnier because Spencer sees them kissing and then he goes crazy. But other than that, whatever. Let's move on. Next we have I Reunite with Missy. This episode is interesting. I think it could be relatable because you have these like old friends that your now friends don't know, and kind of getting to them to gel almost never works. I think it's a pretty great episode, to be honest. I wouldn't put it above the pie episode, but yeah, I liked how Missy gave Sam really old chocolates, and in the end, Carly finds out about how terrible Missy really was, and she goes on a 6-month cruise. So everybody wins. Moving on, we have I Take On Dingo, which I think um I could put this probably in my favorites. This is where basically some kind of TV station rips them off with they take random dancing and a bunch of different bits. And so what do? They go and confront them. And Sam brings her butter sock, and in the end, what gets them to stop copying is this old myth that Spencer heard, that they keep their founder's head in a ice storage locker, and this secret is too um, secretive for them, and basically they agree to stop copying, and as not revenge, but um, also part of the deal was to get two of the writers in a bikini on an iCarly bit. So I thought it was pretty funny, and I don't know, something about this episode I find quite adventurous and fun. Next, we got Locker, what was it, 239, I think. This is the one where they have to guess how many fat cakes are in a tube, and of course Gibby takes off his shirt and rubs around a little bit, and then when we clearly see there's like at least more than 50, more than 100, Gibby says something like 7, which is amazing. I thought that was super funny. I think this episode has a terrible ending, like what, just Sam's mom drives through just drives through the locker. Like, I don't know, that's seems unrealistic, but I think despite everything, this episode is great. Maybe a little worse than the pie one. The pie one actually can go in my favorites. I really like that episode. Next we got iTwins, which is another one of my favorites. I hate that we only get to see Melanie once, because I love the Melanie character. I love the twin thing. I think it would be so good if they would have kind of gone deeper with the whole twin thing and how they're complete opposites. And I love how Freddy just won't buy it, because this is also the one where they convince him that he's so gullible that he'll just believe anything. I think that's just really well done. Put this at the back here. I think this is probably my favorite episode actually of the season. Something about it, something about Melanie is just super, super cool. And then finally we have it's called iFight Shelby Marx, I believe, which is another one of my favorites. I'd say I'd put it about there. And this is where we see Victoria Justice in iCarly as Shelby Marx. Basically, they a bunch of the people in the household of iCarly are big fans of Shelby Marx, and as a joke, they kind of say, "Oh, well, I can fight Shelby Marx," blah blah blah, and it kind of spirals out of control. So they set up this exhibition fight between Shelby and Carly, just basically for fun. It won't be like real punches or anything, but things go wrong at the press conference, and Carly pisses off Shelby, so the fight turns real. But Carly survives a whole round in the ring by hugging around Shelby's foot, which is pretty funny, but not so realistic. But it's a fun episode, and I like that we get Victoria Justice, which has been in so many different Nickelodeon shows in it, and yeah, it's entertaining. But I'm trying to remember now which episode it was that Spencer gets sprayed with a mysterious liquid. I think it might have been I Reunite with Missy, but that's beyond the point. I just forgot which episode it was in. I wanted to mention it. But if you enjoyed this video, or maybe I should say some things about season 2 first. I think, like, looking at this now, a lot of the episodes in season 2 were a little the plot wasn't so interesting. I thought I remember this season is better, but I guess the episodes are very hit or miss. But still, plenty of iconic, classic, and favorite moments for me in this one. And if you liked this kind of episode, I have done season 1. I will be doing the other seasons. I do a lot of Nickelodeon content and iCarly content. I'm going to be covering the new show starting on June 17th. So if you like it, check our other content out. If you kind of want to see future content, I hope you subscribe. But for this video, that's all, and I would like to thank everyone for watching.